Kia ora, Helen Brahms here, coming to you live from Sun City in Arizona. Hope you're all having a super fantastic, sparkling Tune-Up Tuesday. So how was your Tune-Up Tuesday today? We have had an awesome day today. It has been super exciting because it is our second anniversary in Sparkles. It was 2 years ago today, May 4th, 2019, that I purchased Sparkles and started living in an RV full time. It has been a wild ride. We have been through a lot. There's been, all sorts of stuff happening. The road trips are just incredible. So we're going to reflect on some of the stuff over the last 2 years and talk about some of the lessons we've learned along the way. And one of the biggest things I noticed that when I started driving the RV, well, one, because I was getting used to it, and two, it just felt right, is that I slowed down. It's as simple as that, just slowed down. It's like when I get in a car, it's sort of like racing around like everybody else is. But when you get behind the wheel of the RV, and for those that don't know, Sparkles is a 2006 Fleetwood Bounder 32W. She is a Class A, so it's like the big bus ones. 32 feet in length, well, 33 if you count the ladder on the back. But she's just amazing. And there are little quirks about her that I don't like, but over the most part, I am very happy with her. She's served me very, very well the last 2 years. She's gotten me from point A to point B and every point in between. But one of the things that when you get in that front seat, it's a nice, cushy, easy chair. It's got padded fold-down armrests, and you're kind of in this little cocoon, and you're kind of like sitting in a leather easy chair, and you're just cruising down the road. And you really do feel like you're cruising. You don't feel like you want to speed like you're in a car. And all these cars are going, zoom, zoom, zoom. And you're just sort of like, safe travels, have a great day. Oh, look at that scene over there. Oh, that's pretty. You've got time to slow down and admire the scenery. And I tell you, I come from New Zealand, so we have a ton of incredible vistas, sceneries, beaches, forests, mountains, and all of that. The difference between New Zealand and New Zealand and the US is that New Zealand, we're very compact. In fact, the land mass in New Zealand is almost the exact same size as the land mass of the state of Colorado, if you want to know land mass wise. In New Zealand, we're very compact, so it doesn't take long to get from point A to point B, and you can see a variety of terrains during that 2-hour drive. Here in the States, it's a lot bigger. Much bigger scale. And you could be driving for days in desert, and then you get into lush green forest areas with mountains poking up, and it is just, the scenery when it changes is absolutely stunning. And the one thing I have not yet got, because I'm still investigating and still need help with this, is I want to get a GoPro that I can use double usage. One is a dash cam, and two for when we're out walking around. I would much rather prefer to do that than trying to do things on my phone. So if you are an expert with GoPros, I need help, please. Need to find the right one that can do what I need it to do and have the correct mountings and everything. Because there are just some incredible views. When you're going through the deserts and stuff, there can be nothing for miles. You may see a tumbleweed go through. You may see a dust devil spinning in the distance. I have been caught in dust storms. Not too bad that I've had to actually pull over or anything like that. There's been some windy days when I haven't been driving, thank goodness. But one of the lessons I learned very, very quickly, was when I got her in May, and my parents came over for the month of August in 2019, and we went on this massive road trip. We did 3,227 miles in 27 days. And you're probably thinking, that's not good. Trust me, when you are driving an RV and it is your first road trip in an RV that you are not used to driving, you have the GPS open on your phone, just your regular maps program on the phone, and it tells you it's 6.5 hours from Las Vegas to Moab, Utah, and it takes you 12.5 hours to get there, because this is calculating car speed, not RV speed. And it's a very different driving style, very different when you're slowing down. And of course, if you've ever driven from Vegas to Moab, you know that you come into this area and you're going up one side of the canyon, over the top, down the other side of a canyon, across the floor, back up, and you're doing this for hours and hours and hours. And then finally somebody in the RV community said, oh, you need to get hold of something like, you need to get an RV specific GPS. And some people recommended RV Trip Wizard, so I went and looked that up. And then one of the guys, he says, whenever I'm using these programs, he says you put your dimensions of your vehicle in there. So height, length, weight, width, all of that goes in there, because certain roads you can't go if you're over a certain weight. Certain roads you can't go because you might be too wide, or you might be too long, or you might be too tall. And so the RV Trip Wizard looks for safe travel routes around things. And you're like, why am I not going that way? And it could be because there's a low bridge that you won't get under. Well, you might get partly under. You might get a little stuck. Fortunately, we have not had that issue. And so one of the guys told me that he puts in there that you set it to do the drive time based on the miles per hour that you drive. And you put in 40 miles an hour. He said, even if you are driving along, and a lot of Class A RVs I've spoken to have said that they prefer the cruising speed of 63 miles an hour. That seems to be the perfect balance that a lot of them have found. And so it has been absolutely brilliant, because the second we put 40 miles an hour into we got the program, we put 40 miles an hour in, all of a sudden our actual drive times were matching what we were actually driving, what the GPS program was saying. So that was one thing that we learned was, if you're going to be driving an RV, you need an RV specific GPS, along with, don't you go pulling it. I have show and tell. This is, you can see the size of this thing. This is the Good Sam Road Atlas. It's large scale, and it has marked in here, you're not going to be able to see the details on this, but it has marked in here roads that are RV safe. It also has marked in here these little dots where the Good Sam campgrounds are, and these are the ones that are either owned by Good Sam or you get the Good Sam discount at. It has the Camping World Super Centers, because Good Sam and Camping World are all in it together. And with your Good Sam, you get discounts off at Camping World, and there's another camping place, and I can't remember it. But the really cool one that I really, really like is, see down here, it says Pilot and Flying J locations. And that is because with your Good Sam membership, you go in and you show your card, you get 5 cents a gallon off of gasoline and 8 cents a gallon off diesel. And when you're putting 75 gallons into an RV, that makes a huge, huge difference. But here's the cool part, here's the fun, I kind of think it's kind of funny, is that those that have the Pilot and Flying J rewards only get like 2 cents off a gallon of gas, and I think it's 5 cents a gallon of diesel. So it's very much worth the membership for Good Sam just to get the discounts at the gas pump. But yeah, so this has been huge help. When we did the road trip with Mum and Dad, my dad sat in the co-pilot seat, and he had the atlas out open on the page so he could see where we were going. And the other book that he had next to him is this one called Next Exit. This book is amazing. Before I go on any drives or anything, I sit down the night before with a piece of paper, and I go to it, and it's all the interstates are in here. So I go to the states I'm going to be driving through, which interstate am I going, and am I going to be going east or west? And then it tells you, let's pick, oh, that's one I did. So this one here in Louisiana was on Interstate 12. So I was on Interstate 12 on this one, and I had circled exit 2B, because at 2B it had a chevron was there on the north side of on the north side. So it even tells you whether it's north or south, east or west when you get off the interstate. But it had a chevron, which had diesel at it. It had a mobile, which also had diesel. I can't read that one. I've got no idea what that says. Randy's, Shell, Circle K, Applebee's. It's got the restaurants listed there. It's got hotels listed there. It's got gas, grocery stores listed there. There was even a Michael's there if I needed the craft supplies. There was a Toyota car dealership there, and a Walmart, and a Walgreens. So it even lists all the stores that are within a certain distance from the thing, and it tells you whether you got to go north or south or east or west when you get off the interstate. And it also puts in there the rest areas and tells you, are they full service rest areas? Are they just parking only? So it makes it really good to be mapping things out when you're driving, and you can just have that list. And I just have an area beside the console, which is flat, which doesn't get any breeze on it because my piece of paper would fly away. And I just put my piece of paper there, and I use dark colors on it, and I will have different things highlighted in different colors so that I know if it's a rest area, a gas station, a Walmart, because a lot of RVers love Walmarts, and we love Walmart because they have the cheaper prices, and they also have an RV department where you can go and get the basic supplies that RVs need, which is kind of nice. And also too, because a lot of Walmarts, I don't know about it now since COVID, but a lot of Walmarts will allow you to camp in there at the back of the parking lot, but you have to look like you're parking. You're not allowed to look like you're camping, which means you can't put your jacks down, you can't put your slides out, you can't set up the barbecue outside, you can't set up your outdoor chairs. You have to make it look like you are parked while you shop. It's called boondocking. It's having no facilities available to you, only what you have inside the thing. But so you can boondock in some states will allow you to do it, some counties will allow you to do it, some counties won't. And you just got to basically just go in and ask the manager, and they the expectation is that you'll go in there and do some shopping. So that's why RV is like Walmart so much. So those are two essentials. And yes, I know I can get more electronically. I know I have the apps and all of that, but I'm kinesthetic. I love the touchy-feely stuff. Yes, I've got my GPS, but if my GPS goes down, I've got my little list here that tells me where the rest areas. I can pull in there, I can pull out my map, and I can figure out where I'm going. I like that. So the other thing I have is my little compass. I love compass. I love orienteering. Used to love doing that at school. So I carry a compass with me. So whenever I park, one of the first things I do is, after we've leveled everything and got the slides out and got the power connected, is I then take the compass out and see which way we are facing. So I know where the sun's going to be coming during the day and that sort of thing. Flashlights, very important tools. And you want the LED ones because they give really, really good light. And you even want the headlamp ones too, because these are really, really good. If I'm out walking Zeffy at night, it's good to put it, I put it on my head. That's it. I put it up here, and I can tilt it so it's down at the feet area, and I can walk around and I still have my hands free because I use the leash on her that goes around my waist, so it keeps my hands free. It means that I'm not tied up with a leash in one hand and a flashlight in the other one. So it works really well. And if you're in any of the lockers underneath it at night, yes, we do have lights down there, but if there's anywhere you've got to go where there's no lighting in the RV, having this helps you see in those little dark corners and everything else. And this one here is super, 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 ultra, ultra, ultra important. This thing. This is a personal locator beacon. You buy one of these, you register them with, who you register with? I can't remember. It's got all the paperwork comes in the box. This is called Rescue Link. And basically, if you're out somewhere and you're in trouble and there is no cell phone service in your area, there's no facilities nearby or anything else, you can just pop this baby up and somebody will come and rescue you. And it's got a little Velcro strap here. To set it off, you pull the tab, unwrap the aerial, and that kind of sets it off. It's very, very quick, and it works on the satellite. So it works by satellite. But yeah, so this is a personal locator beacon. Extremely important, especially if you're going to be going like boondocking, where you're in the middle of nowhere, have no cell service, where you're completely off the grid and you get into trouble and it's just you around and you need help. This is good for that. And there's a lot of people that you hear about, people who go walking in the forests and the things, and they've lost for days and days and days. Had they had one of these, it was much quicker to find you, especially if you're injured. So that's ultra, ultra, super, super important. It should be a requirement for people to have one of these. They may cost I'm trying to remember how much that one was. It was like $200 or $300, but it is worth every penny if it means that I can get help a lot quicker if I'm in an area where I need help and I can't get help. Other important things that we carry around is our logbooks, and there's a lot of different logbooks, but I like this one. I'm going to show you a clean page. That's the old one. Because what it does is, in here you've got all the information about the RV park, all the general amenities, their booking, their cancellation notices, and all of that. their park, what's it like getting through the park, through the RV park? Is it wide lanes? Is it tight turns? Are there a lot of trees overhanging? Then when you get to your site, you've got little things here that you can check off about your site. You put the site number there. Over here, it's, what's in the area, what was the weather like when you were there, what nearby restaurants, grocery stores, what you're going to do and visit next time, what did you go see this time, your connectivity for your Wi-Fi and your phone service, and then any other notes that you want to have. And then every 2 pages, they've got this number up here, and you go to the back of the book, and in the back of the book, they have it listed by state, and you can put the number for that page on the state. So if you're like looking, so if you say I'm going back to Florida, where do I stay in Florida? You can go to Florida. You can look, at this number, and this number, and you can go check those ones and see what you put. And it's yours. You can put your own thoughts and stuff in there. I actually have a basket. This is my basket. This basket is full of campground maps. Every time we go to a campground, they give you a map. They show you where your RV spot is, and it helps me when I go back through the logbooks to have a look and see. And on this one, it also has on the spine where you can put the dates as well. And it has, I think it has 53 in here. 52. And I've already filled up one book, and I still have several campsites to put in here. So we've been close to probably about 60 different campsites. Some we have revisited over the time, but we've been to 60 individual about 60 individual campsites now during our travels and journeys and things. Memberships. Oh my gosh, there are so many different memberships for all sorts of different reasons. It really depends on what type of camping you like, what sort of campgrounds you want to stay in. I have, Good Sam, because I get the discount with the gas. And I get, and most campgrounds I go to will give you a Good Sam discount. There's Escapees, and they have a few campgrounds of their own where it's like 10, 15, 20 bucks a night, which is nice for full hookup. Full hookup means you've got the option of 30 to 50 amp power on the same power stand, utility stand. You'll have water and you'll have sewer. So that's full hookup. And let's see, so Good Sam Escape is 1,000 Trails. There's a lot of mixed reviews out there about 1,000 Trails. It's a yearly membership thing. It is not cheap. And you can stay, like I'm staying here at an Encore property, which is associated with 1,000 Trails. And because I'm with 1,000 Trails at this particular Encore property, any Encore property, I can stay up to 3 weeks. At this particular one, it's 20 bucks a night. At other Encore properties, it's free. At 1,000 Trails, it's free for me to stay for up to 21 nights. Actually, I think I'm 28 nights at the 1,000 Trail ones. So I can do a lot of moving around and camping for free based on what area I'm in. And then they also have a program with RPI where you can stay at their campgrounds for like $10, $15, $20 a night. We've stayed in a few really good ones. Passport America is another good discount one. And Escapees, and I'll talk about Escapees again in a minute. Passport America is usually like a 50% off, but most of the places you stay at, you have to stay at a minimum of 3 nights, and usually it's not over weekends, and you'll get the first 2 nights at half price and the third night's at full price. So basically, pay for 2 nights, get 1 free. And then there's Family Motor Coach Association, and this and Escapees are like 2 of the best ones out there. Both of them offer mail forwarding for those that are life on the road, and you can they help you become residents in Texas, Florida, or South Dakota. And they have mail places in those areas where you can get your mail sent to, and then it can be forwarded on to wherever it is. And most of them have they'll scan the mail for you, email you the scans, and you can go through, you can shred that, send that to me, and that sort of thing as well. And with the with FMCA, which is Family Motor Coach Association, I get my Wi-Fi through them. It's just a little Sprint Wi-Fi. It says 10 gigs, but it's actually unlimited, and it's $50 a month, unlimited, $49.99 every month, unlimited, and it's month to month. If I don't want to use it if I'm going to be not traveling for a month, I just call them up and say, hey, not paying this month. Can you suspend it? You call them back and say, we want to reactivate. So you can do that. And all of these have discounts at different campgrounds and stuff. Some of them have their own campgrounds, and their members pay very cheap rates. But yeah, it's been learning all of that. But one of the cool things that I like about this is you actually see different parts of the country. It really is a unique way to see the country. And because you're not zooming along the freeways and stuff, you're actually slowing down and you're taking time. Yes, you have the truckers whizzing by you, you've got other cars whizzing by you and all that. I don't care. I have a limit of 4 hours at the absolute max is what I will drive. After doing that 12 hours through all those canyons in Utah to get to Moab, I am never doing that again. I also learned as well that when driving and you're doing 3 to 4 hours driving a day in an RV, it takes a toll physically on you as well as mentally. It's completely different physically and mentally than driving a car. And so I find I get very drained the next day. So I always, if I am traveling and I need to get from point A to point B quickly, quickly being Helen's quick, it's a case of I will stay a minimum of 2 nights in one place. So I've got a full day to recover and then travel the next day. Because I found when we did that big road trip with Mum and Dad, when we were doing overnight stays, I was exhausted. I was truly exhausted. It was affecting my concentration. It was affecting my my mental capability. There was times when we were driving to Moab, I was having this mental battle inside my head that I was done with this RVing thing. I am pulling over the side of the road. I don't care what happens to the RV. I'm done. And then it's sort of like this little voice says, yeah, but you got your parents with you. Damn it. Gotta keep driving. And this whole battle was going on. And I mean, every time we crested a hill and looked out over the vistas of the canyons. They were stunning. They were gorgeous. But towards the end, before we got to the turnoff where we had to turn off, it was like, damn it, I've got another canyon to go through. And the mental game would start going again in the head. So it was, but I did learn lots of great lessons. Having my dad, who has driven probably just about everything that's out there. He's driven fire trucks, he's driven trucks, fire trucks, police cars. He's driven a whole variety of different vehicles, buses and all that. He was able to help me learn how to drive uphill and downhill and let the engine do the work and stay off the brakes as much as possible, especially coming downhill. So changing down gears, setting the cruise control, using the gears, using the tow haul button. So he was able to guide me through that. And he'd be sitting there watching me. He goes, "Get that foot off the brake." I said, "It wasn't on the brake." I said, "I just gave it just a quick tap." "Get your foot away from that brake, Dad." So I was very grateful to have my parents with me, even though it was a very rushed road trip that we had. We still saw some great things and all of that. And there were some campgrounds that I've been to that have been kind of questionable. There was one campground that if my parents were not with me, I would have turned around and left. It was basically a parking lot next to the river, and there was a lot of long-termers there, and they all came in at the same time of day, and a lot of single guys who were living in trailers. A lot of single guys living in the trailers that were parked there. And I was, if I'd been by myself, I would have been out of there. I wouldn't have stayed. Yes, there's been some campgrounds that I've been to that I've sort of like, yeah, we're not staying here again. There was one, and this is when I triggered Zeffie's PTSD. I didn't realize that she had it. But there were flies. It was horrible because there was an egg-laying place somewhere close by, because they even gave you a leaflet, and on the leaflet it said, if you notice an excessive amount of feathers, please send an email to this address and explain and tell them that you're staying here at this campground and there's an excessive amount of feathers. And please also copy this email address and this email address. And then if you notice a lot of flies hanging around, then email this address, and complain about them. And I'm sort of like, what? And that's when I found out there's an egg place not far away. The campground itself was okay. They had some good dog park runs. They were a little run down, could have done with some sprucing up. But the flies were horrendous. We had the door open and the screen closed one night. We went to go out for a walk, for Zeffie's evening walk. And there's all these flies on the screens. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'd never seen so many flies in one place at one time. And so I remember my mum telling me, you whack the screen. So I whacked the screen. Zeffie and I got out, closed the door and everything else, and off we went for our walk. Well, when we came back, there were no flies because the door was closed. So we opened up the door, got inside quickly, And we're busy around, and I look up at the roof, and there's like 15 flies on the roof. And I'm like, I have had enough of this. So I pull out my fly swat, and I just start whack, whack, whack. And Zeffie, she was in the bedroom, like, so fast. I'm like, what the heck? And I go in the bedroom, and she was around the far side of the bed. Now, the bed is on a box base, and the bed actually lifts up, and there's storage under the bed. So there's only like about a 6-inch hanging piece around the edge of the bed, and off the platform where the mattress goes. And she was on the far side of the bed where the wall is about so much room, and she was tucked up as close to the bed as she could, trying to hide. She was terrified. And I was just sort of like, I felt so bad because I had set off a reaction with her. And I found out later it wasn't the fly swat, it was the noise, that the whoosh, because there was something else. Because I thought, well, maybe I'll try something else to get rid of these flies. And I tried something else, and again, she took off, and it was the whooshing noise. So that was in our early days when we were just getting used to each other, and still, I mean, I'd only had her like 3 months at that point. But, you know, we've had some great times. There's been a lot of growth going on personally. A lot of mental games go on when you're driving. And now it's down to now I've sort of got it down to a routine and stuff. You learn to live what basics you need. Like, the only appliances I have in my RV is my Instant Pot, my Vitamix. I have a set of pots that the handles actually come off and they all stack inside each other, because it's all about space. So when you're in an RV, you've got to think space, space, space. I have a limited amount of space. You can't do a lot of shopping. I am thankful for Instacart because they will deliver to campgrounds. Most campgrounds they will deliver to, especially if you're in a big, near a city area. Amazon is another place that you can get stuff from. But you've got to think storage. When you're picking up groceries and stuff, is your freezer big enough to take what it is that you have? Is your refrigerator, can it handle the amount of cold stuff that you've got? When you've got cans and all of that, is the drawer that you're putting it in going to keep cool? Because these RVs can get hot. And like this one here, I'm going to show you behind the curtain. See the silver stuff here? This blind actually broke. The blinds should look like this. They're day-night blinds. So you've got one goes up, and there's a thinner one underneath that you can actually see out through, and then there's a thicker one that comes down and blocks all the light for you. But my blind here broke. This is Reflectix, and you put it on your windows to help reflect the sunlight back out. It helps keep the RV warm in the winter. But you also go and line your cupboards and your drawers, especially if they're on an outside wall, with this stuff, and it stops it heating up. So I still have some rolls of Reflectix underneath in one of the lockers that I need to bring in, and there's a couple of cabinets in here that I need to do it with, because you open those cabinets and go to reach inside, and it's sort of like, well, that got a little warm, didn't it? So it's remembering those things. I've had to learn to do maintenance on this thing, how to do tire pressure and all that, and I've got a little pump that runs off the cigarette lighters, and so I've got that little pump with extended cords so that I can reach the cigarette lighters and reach where the pump goes. And you have to make sure that it does a pressure that the tires can handle, because these tires, you're pumping anywhere between 90 to 100 pounds into these tires, so you have to make sure that the pump that you get can handle up to that pressure, because if it only goes up to 80 pounds, you're not going to get your tires up to 90. So I've learned to do that. I'm learning to do, I got to change out my little side light thing, so I had to go find them and purchase them. And there's like things like that along the way. Our lamps up ahead, they've all been switched out of the little bulbs that they had in there and put in with the LED ones, which are a lot cooler, because these plastic coverings on the lights and things would get very, very hot. So it's just fun, just the little things like that along the way, and knowing that and finding that I can do them. And when I first saw the RV, I was sort of like, oh yeah, I got to drive that. Driving it the first time was scary, I will admit. It was very, very scary. But then I got comfortable behind the wheel, and once I actually got behind the wheel and actually started driving it, I thought, I will tell you this is 32 feet of vehicle. It was easier to drive than Brad's Yukon was. Think about that. This is easier to drive, and I think it's because I'm up higher, I can see further. With Brad's, his driver's seat was compressed down a little bit, because it had almost 200,000 miles on it. And even though I was up higher, you still had the hood to look over the front of the car, of the vehicle and stuff. And this here, I have no hood, I have no bonnet. I just have this white dashboard. But it's very easy. Oh my gosh, this woman just walked past with a parrot on her shoulder, and I'm trying to think. Looks like an African grey, but it's green. About the same size as an African grey, but green. Damn it, can't think what type of parrot that is. It'll come to me later. But she just walked past with it on her shoulder. So it's learning the different driving techniques. Backing this thing, I have to tell you, thanks to my dad for teaching me how to reverse properly when he taught me how to drive. I have been able to back this thing up. And in fact, I had the guy the other day, we were on a walkie-talkie, he gave me one of the walkie-talkies, and he's giving me the tour as we're coming to park here. And so then he gets behind Sparkles there to direct me into the parking thing, and he's giving me direction, go a little to your left, okay, that's fine, now come back about 3 or 4 feet, now go to your right, and we backed this thing in one go, didn't have to do any shuffling backwards and forwards, and I get out of there, and he says, you did that really well. I said, my dad was very good at making sure I knew how to reverse. And he spent a lot of time teaching me how to reverse, and his rules were watch your mirrors, take your time, and if somebody's directing, listen. Those are his 3 rules for backing up. And those are the rules that I use for my really cool one that had to go down a hill and turn and park between 2 trees. My dad was pretty impressed with that one when I showed him, when we went nose first down the hill to get to the RV so he could see. But, there's lots of things that you will learn away. There are things that you will learn about yourself. What surprises me the most is when I pull into a parking space and I get all parked and I'm out there and I'm starting to hook everything up, people will come up to me, guys will come up to me, women especially will come up to me and go, oh, are you traveling by yourself? And I'm like, yeah, you're driving this? And I'm like, yeah, like it's no big deal. Because to me, it's not a big deal. And they're like, oh, you are so brave. And I'm like thinking, I want to live in an RV. This is the RV I've chosen. I've got to figure out how to drive it from point A to point B. You do what you have to do. You learn what you have to learn. And that's one of the things I've been learning along the way, that, if something breaks down, figure out how to fix it. There's maintenance that has to be done on the vehicle, figure it out. And I even and I have a couple of Facebook groups for Fleetwood Bounder owners. And I will go in there and I'll put questions in there from time to time. Hey, I'm looking at this. What do I do with this? And you'll get about 30 different responses. And yes, I can download the owner's manual online, which I do, and I have a look at that, but half the time it doesn't really tell you. I said, well, the owner's manual tells me this. And then you narrow the 30 answers down to 2 or 3. And then some of them will even give you YouTube links to go and to go watch, so you know how to do things. So it's been a pretty incredible last 2 years. We have traveled. So our first road trip, our 3,227 mile trip, we went from California to Nevada, Utah, Idaho, Washington, British Columbia, Oregon, back through and back to California again. Then the next road trip I did was 6 weeks in Arizona, where I went to, I was in Mesa, then I went up to Verde Valley, and then down to Tucson. Which way did I go? And then I came back up to the 10, because I did the 10 both ways that time. And then the next road trip, which was my big one last year, is I went to California, Arizona, New Mexico. I went through, yes, because I didn't. Some of these are not marked off on my calendar, because on my map I have an outline map and I color in the little stickers you put on the states. But my rule for putting a sticker on a state is I have to be there a minimum of 2 nights, and I have to leave the campground to go see something in the area. So to go see a monument, to go see a museum, in order for it to count, I have to go see something, preferably historic. Something about the area. Not going to a restaurant does not count unless it's a historical restaurant and you're learning about the restaurant while you're there. So last year we drove from California back to California, and this is the route we took. We went through California, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, Mississippi, Alabama, to Florida, where we got stuck for like 9 weeks because we got stuck there during lockdown. And then we were only supposed to be in Florida for like 3 or 4 weeks, and then we were going to head up the east coast and all of that. So because of COVID, we had to change things. And that was one of the things with COVID, is we had to figure out where can we go, because some states campgrounds were essential, in some states they were not. If you had a permanent residence at a campground, in some states you could stay there, in some states you could not. In some states, you had to, if you were coming into the state, you had to stay at a campground for a minimum of 14 nights before you could continue driving through the state. So thankfully, one of the RV trip was one of the things that they belong to that you can access to, had a state-by-state guide that told you what campgrounds were open where and all of that. So we ended up driving back through Georgia, Tennessee, Arkansas, Missouri, Kansas, Colorado, New Mexico, Arizona, and back to California. And it's been our, so we've covered a lot. We still have a lot to see. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 18 states. 18 states that we've been through. So it's been a pretty wild 2 years. And so I know we've got a lot more states to go. I really want to, but there's also travel groups that will get together and caravan in the RVs, and you pay, they can start at like $2,000 and go upwards per person, and it covers your campground fees, it covers some of the meals, it covers entries into some of the different activities and things. Like there's one that goes up to Canada, into Calgary for the rodeo, so you get tickets to the rodeo. And it covers all your campground stays, a few meals, and you just drive in a caravan. Convoy, caravan, whichever way you want to look at it. So it's been a pretty wild 2 years. We've had a great time. Having Zeffie with me last year was the best thing ever, because had she not been with me when I was traveling, I don't think I ever would have left the RV. Maybe to go get groceries and stuff, but when I got to Mesa and I discovered Instacart, back when we got back to Mesa in September last year and I discovered Instacart, I just started getting groceries delivered. I didn't have a vehicle, and two, this mask requirement thing, I can't wear masks, so I find other ways to get things. So Amazon and Instacart and delivery services like that have become huge to rely on. So when I'm going to be going on the road, I try to do a grocery shop before I hit the road, because I don't know if the next place I'm going to stay at is going to have a place where I can get groceries from, or has like Instacart or DoorDash or Amazon deliveries, that sort of stuff. So it's been a lot of fun, and you learn these things along the way. You learn these things, and you get to meet some great people along the way. Oh my gosh, the people we have met along the way, and a lot of them are dog owners, and that's how we've met. That's how I've met a lot of people, is because of Zeffie. We take her out for a walk, and she sees some dog, and she'll go and introduce herself to the dog, and they play. And I get talking with the owners, and so we've met some incredible people along the way. Amazing people. And RVers, there are a few that aren't the greatest to associate with, but on the most part, it's a huge community, and everybody helps everybody else. And like when I first started looking for an RV, this guy who'd been in RV sales for like 30 years or something, he told me, he says, if you ever have any problems, he says, what you do, he says, go open up the engine hatch at the front. If you've got the gas, because gas is at the front, diesel's at the back. He said, go open up the engine hatch at the front and stand there with a hammer in your hand. He says, just like stand there with a hammer in your hand, like you're looking to figure out what you've got to hit. And he said, trust me, he said, in less than 5 minutes, you'll probably have about 5 or 6 guys around you offering help. And it kind of works. Believe it or not, it kind of works. Even if a guy is standing in front of an engine with a tool in his hand, other guys will go, hey, what you doing? Can I help you out? Do you need any help with anything? It's been really good. I mean, I've had guys come out when I've been backing up into a campground site. When I get out and walk around and check everything, they say, oh, do you need any help backing in? Because I've just gotten back and they've seen me, so they've come over, do you need help backing in? And I'm sort of like, nope, I think I'm good. And I walk around, and then there was, oh my gosh, this was the most horrible one. We're at this one campground, and this guy came over and offered to help back me, and I says, no, I think I've got, I said, it was just making sure I didn't go over the edge at the back, because there was this big cliff over the back of this campsite, and because the campsite was on a plateau, the whole campground area. And he goes, oh, yeah, he says, you've got to watch that. And he says, but, and he kind of like looks down each side and says, yeah, but it looks like you got it pretty well set up. And I'm like, yep. So I go and I get my, what did I go get? I went and got, the water hose, to hook up the water hose, because I keep it away from the sewer hose. And so I went and got my water hose. I walk back around, I go to open my utility thing, and there's this dead mouse laying there. And I'm like, I hate dead mice. one of my jobs as a teenager was cleaning up after our cat, and our cat would catch mice and birds. Thankfully, I didn't have to clean up the rabbits. She would catch them too, and she would leave them half-eaten there. So you'd have this half-eaten cat. I wanted to throw up every time, and I'm like, oh my God, where's that guy? Where's that guy? So I go running out. He had disappeared. I had no clue where he went. And I'm like, damn it. I don't want to be stepping over this thing because I'll probably step on it. Or maybe it's just sleeping and it'll suddenly run up my leg or something. All these things start flashing through your head. And so I went around to my passenger side and I got out and I've got these yellow flat panel things that you put under the jacks to help level. And so I go get one of these things and I go over there and I'm like trying to get it underneath. And the things like about this thing, I'm trying to get it underneath this mouse to like flick it over the hill and stuff. And all it does is just rolls it. So now it's on its back and it's got no legs. I'm like, oh my God, this is gross. And so I finally got it over. There are some things that you just have to do. You just got to suck it up and do it. And I finally got it over the edge and tumbling down the hill there. And then I get back and I had a bottle of Pine Sol. And I just opened up and just poured it neat over top of this yellow thing I'd been using where to touch the mouse. And disinfected it and everything else. So there are some things you have to do because there's nobody else around to do them. You just got to get in there and get it done. And that's just something that you learn along the way. Like the mouse thing. I hate dead mice. I hate dead birds. I hate dead mice. A lot of trauma from when I was a teenager, having to clean up after Fluff. It's the name of our cat, Fluffy. But, it's just one of those things. You just get out there and you just figure out how to do it. If you're not sure how to do something, ask. And was it the first night or the second night? The first night I had sparkles. I actually locked myself out of sparkles. I had the keys in my hand, but I couldn't get the door unlocked. And I was like, oh crap, what am I going to do? And I am not one to go and ask for help. I am a nurturer. I'm usually giving the help. So to actually have to turn around and go and ask somebody for help, I'm like, what the hell do I do? And I thought, RV parks are supposed to be friendly, and I can't exactly pull out a tool and go stand in front of the thing because it's dark. This was like 8 o'clock at night. It was pitch black. So there was an RV next door. So I went and I knocked on the door, and as afterwards I thought maybe I didn't pound loud enough. You got to pound on doors. And the guy eventually came and opened up the door because he said he was inside and he just heard this thing. He said, is that somebody knocking at the door? And the kids were like, I don't know. So I thought, I'll just check it anyway. And he came over. He had a flashlight. He came over with his flashlight, and we got the door unlocked. And it's because there was one key where if you turned it slight, and it was only just a slight turn. Trust me, it was a slight. It wasn't even a quarter of a turn or an eighth of a turn. It was probably about a 16th of a turn, and it was enough to lock the door. And I wasn't putting it back far enough. So he got all unlocked for me, so I was very, very grateful. But the whole time I was walking over there, I was going, I've got to do this. And knocking on the door, and then he wasn't answering. I go, what if he doesn't come to the door? What am I going to do? And I was literally starting to panic. What am I going to do? I've got nowhere to sleep. My car keys were even inside. And I was like, what am I going to do? Because I'd walked off. I'd gone down to the trash can to take some stuff down to the trash can, and I was walking back. So I had no car keys with me. I had no handbag with me. Didn't have my wallet with me. I just had my RV keys with me. Those were the only keys I had. But fortunately, he heard the knocking. He came to the door and he helped me get in. So asking for help is kind of becoming a regular thing. And sometimes when you're at a parking area for a while, you start making friends with some of the neighbors and things. And one of them actually found my tire cover down the street because it had blown off, and he brought it back and he said, what you should do is grab like a Sharpie and put your name on it. So if it gets blown off again, it can be returned to you very quickly. And I'm like, that's a good idea. I never thought of that. So, and then when I've taken my RV in to be serviced at this place in San Diego that I go to, the guy there knows that this is my first time driving an RV. It's my first time that I live in the RV. So he's always given me helpful tips when I've gone in, like how to operate the air conditioner efficiently and not have it freeze up on you, and how to work the vents on the AC unit, even how to empty the tanks, the grey tanks and the black tank, what order to do them in, how to do it effectively so that you keep them clean and that sort of stuff. So, and he's always full of good information. Every time I go pick up my RV, he says, oh, let me just show you a couple of things. And he was like in the refrigerator there, and he says, see the switch here? He goes, I said, yep. He says, he said, I've turned it off. He says, you only need to turn it on when you're in a place with high humidity. I'm like, oh, okay. So it's off, it'll go on. If we go back to Florida, and that was after I'd been to Florida. I said, I wish I'd known that when I was in Florida. So you learn lots of things along the way, and but it's a great life. I love it. I love the fact that I've got work that I can do on the road. You still got to budget for things. You still got to budget for things because campgrounds cost money, gas costs money, and then you got your insurance, your extended warranties, and all of that sort of thing. And but it's been a great life so far. 2 years on the road. I'm looking at getting a home base, but now I'm kind of thinking, do I really want a home base or not? And then I'm thinking, if I don't get a home base, maybe I can do some upgrading inside Sparkles instead, like replacing the flooring. I've got a couch that needs to be replaced. One of the springs has popped out. These cushions on the dinette need replacing, and so I'm thinking, how can I do something with the couch area and the dinette area that makes it so I've got a desk workspace. I have a recliner that actually works. My recliner does work, but you have to be facing you have to have the footstool part of it facing the sink with the TV behind you for it to stretch out fully. It's a very weird setup. But so it's kind of like, how can I work this area? So I've got a dining area, an office area, a relaxing area. So you learn to make adjustments and things. And downsizing. Oh my gosh, downsizing. Yes, I still have a locker, still have storage lockers. So, but it's just all part of the process. It's all part of the process. So anyway, I have guessed on long enough. And so thank you all for tuning in to hear about our 2 years on the road. It has been quite an adventure, and we have more adventures to come. And it's just great. The people are great that you meet. You get to see some incredible sights. But I definitely need to get the GoPro thing sorted out. Because when I'm driving along, oh my gosh, that vista is so gorgeous. And then what I could do with the video later on is go back and take stills out of the video and post those, so you get to see some of the amazing sights that we get to see on the road. Where we can, we try to pull over and take photographs, but a lot of the times there's nowhere that you could really pull over, and there's things like, only pull over on the shoulder in case of emergencies, and I'm like, yeah, I don't think they'd agree to stopping to take a photograph would be an emergency, so. But anyway, have a super fantastic sparkling rest of your Tuesday. We'll catch you guys tomorrow morning for Winning Wednesday, and we are off to go for WALK with the DOG. Have a super fantastic sparkling evening. Hei konera.